Good evening. How's everybody doing? Enjoying this nice hot weather? Love it? We need more rain, I think. Make my husband mow the lawn again.
Yeah. we got a whole new crop of stickers coming in, because we've had so much rain.
Keep the stickers.
Just don't ever go barefoot around my house, that's all I can say. When you come in, you have to take your shoes off. So if we can get everybody to stand, we'll try to do some praise songs. Years I spent in vanity and pride, caring not my Lord was crucified, knowing not it was for me He died on Calvary. Mercy there was great and grace was free, pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burden so found liberty at Calvary. By God's word at last my sin I learned, then I trembled at the law I'd spurned, till my guilty soul imploring turned to Calvary. Mercy there was great and grace was free, pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burden so found liberty at Calvary. Oh, the love that drew salvation's plan, oh, the grace that brought it down to man, oh, the mighty gulf that God did span at Calvary. Mercy there was great and grace was free, pardon there was multiplied to me. There my burden so found liberty at Calvary. Amen. Y'all sound pretty good today. Must have liked this weather. Well, it's nice and cool till, I don't know, at 1 or 2 o'clock, and then God changed his mind. He does that. Went from 70 to 80 in about 10 minutes. But that's okay. He's still there when we're up and when we're down. Life is easy when you're up on the mountain and you've got peace of mind like you've never known. But when things change and you're down in the valley, don't lose faith, for you're never alone. And the God on the mountain is still God in the valley. When things go wrong, He'll make them right. And the God in the good times is still God in the bad times. The God of the day is still God of the night. We talk of faith when we're up on the mountain, but talk comes easy when life's at its best. But in the valley of trials and temptations, that's when faith is really put to the test. And the God of the mountain is still God in the valley. When things go wrong, He'll make them right. And the God in the good times is still God in the bad times. The God of the day is still God in the night. And the God on the mountain valley. When things go wrong, He'll make them right. And the God in the good times is still God in the bad times. The God of the day is still God in the night. The God of the day is still God of the night. Amen. Have a seat.
All right, thank you, ladies. And God did not change his mind at 1:30. You just didn't know the plan. All right. It's funny. I've been inside all afternoon. I missed the hot part. It was nice and cool the last time I was outside. Proverbs chapter 19. Turn there with me if you would. We're going to look at 19 through 22 if we have time tonight. Proverbs 19 through 22. There are a number of proverbs that are, redundant, proverbs that we've already looked at. And so I may do a little bit of skipping through here. It just depends on how we're doing on time. Proverbs 19 through 22. If you're new with us or watching online and new with us, we're doing a straight survey through the Old Testament, that is from Genesis all the way through Malachi. And I've already done Matthew through Revelation a couple of times over the years. And so we're tackling the Old Testament. We've been in the Old Testament now for years. And we went through Psalms. That took a little over a year. Now we're in Proverbs and making progress. This is what we call wisdom literature of the Old Testament. And we're in Proverbs 19. It's not structured the way most of the Old Testament and most of the New Testament is structured. These are sayings of wisdom, and sometimes they're related to one another, and sometimes they're not. They're just a list of wise sayings. I have challenged you to memorize 2 verses during our study of Proverbs. You can, by the way, study more. That's not a maximum, that's a minimum. And you don't have to memorize any of them. I'm not your teacher. I'm not going to give you a 0 and expel you from the class. But I do want to challenge you to learn at least 2, and chances are you know at least 2 of them. Probably know more than that, whether you realize it or not. But find 2 in here, in Proverbs, that you really, really like, and mark them, learn the reference to them, and they'll be helpful to you in the years to come. Proverbs 19, verse 1. Better a poor man whose walk is blameless than a fool whose lips are perverse. It is not good to have zeal without knowledge, nor to be hasty and miss the way. Have you ever been in such a hurry that you missed the exit? My dear wife is not here, so I don't know what you're talking about there. I've never done that. If she were here, I'd change my story. But he says, nor to be hasty and miss the way. You get in such a hurry that you end up missing where you're supposed to be. Verse 3, a man's own folly ruins his life, yet his heart rages against the Lord. Verse 4, wealth brings many friends, but a poor man's friend deserts him. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who pours out lies will not go free. Many curry favor with a ruler, and everyone is the friend of a man who gives gifts. And you see verse 4 and verse 6 are similar to one another. Let me read verse 6 again. Many curry favor with a ruler, and everyone is the friend of a man who gives gifts. I think of Oprah Winfrey when she puts gifts under the seat of everyone for Christmas many years ago. Everybody liked Oprah because she gave them good presents. Verse 7, a poor man is shunned by all of his relatives. How much more to do with his friends, how much more do his friends avoid him? Though he pursues them with pleading, they are nowhere to be found. He who gets wisdom loves his own soul. He who cherishes understanding prospers. A false witness will go unpunished, and he who pours out lies will perish. It is not fitting for a fool to live in luxury. How much worse for a slave to rule over princes. A man's wisdom gives him patience. It is to his glory to overlook an offense. That is a good one to learn. A king's rage is like the roar of a lion, but his favor is like dew on the grass. And again, this was written by Solomon, a king. And so anytime it uses the word king, it is something of a personal statement from him. A king's rage is like the roar of a lion, but his favor is like the dew on the grass. Being from Texas, we get that. In the morning, that heavy dew, everything is nice and green. A foolish son is his father's ruin, and a quarrelsome wife is like a constant dripping. There are multiple statements about difficult wives tonight. I did not write this. I just read it. Take it with a grain. A foolish son is his father's ruin, and a quarrelsome wife is like constant dripping. Verse 14, houses and wealth are inherited from parents, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. I'm going to share with you a few other translations and a few paraphrases from time to time tonight. And one is for verse 14. New Living Translation says it this way: fathers can give their sons an inheritance of houses and wealth, but only the Lord can give an understanding wife. I like that. Verse 15, laziness brings on deep sleep, and the shiftless man goes hungry. He who obeys instructions guards his life, but he who is contemptuous of his ways will die. He who is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward him for what he has done. That's interesting. I thought, can you lend to the Lord? Does God borrow from us? Here's a paraphrase called The Message. It says this, it translates it or paraphrases it this way: mercy to the needy is a loan to God, and God pays back those loans in full. I like that. Verse 18, discipline your son, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to his death. A hot-tempered man must pay the penalty. If you rescue him, you will have to do it again. Another translation says, a short-tempered man must bear his own penalty. You can't do much to help him. If you try once, you must try a dozen times. Verse 20, listen to advice and accept instruction, and in the end you'll be wise. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. What a man desires is unfailing love. Better to be poor than a liar. The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble. The sluggard buries his hand in his dish, or in the dish. He will not even bring it back to his mouth. I know the King James Version says the sluggard buries his hand in his chest. It actually uses the word bosom, I believe. I don't have a bosom. But he says the sluggard buries his hand in his chest. He will not even bring it back to his mouth. Do you understand what he's saying here? Now, that's a sluggard, by the way. Here's the contemporary English version. Says, some people are too lazy to lift a hand to feed themselves. And that's literally what it's saying. Some people are so lazy they won't even feed themselves. That's pretty lazy. Verse 25, flog a mocker and the simple will learn prudence. Rebuke a discerning man and he will gain knowledge. Verse 26, he who robs his father and drives out his mother is a son who brings shame and disgrace. Let me read that again. He who robs his father and drives out his mother is a son who brings shame and disgrace. You know, as messed up and wicked as our world is today, I am still shocked when I see on the news that someone has killed their mother or their father, or assaulted their mother or their father, usually over an argument over something selfish or petty. It's just stunning to me. Well, not much has changed in 3,000 years. Apparently that happened then as well. He who robs his father and drives out his mother is a son who brings shame and disgrace. Verse 27, stop listening to instruction, my son, and you will stray from the words of knowledge. A corrupt witness mocks at justice, and the mouth of the wicked gulps down evil. Penalties are prepared for mockers and beatings for the backs of fools. That's Proverbs 19. Do you have any comments or questions about anything in that chapter? All right, Proverbs 20, verse 1. I have 3 translations for verse 1. Wine is a mocker and beer a brawler. Whoever is led astray by them is not wise. Now that's the NIV. King James says it this way, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Another translation says it this way, wine makes you mean, beer makes you quarrelsome, a staggering drunk is not much fun. Verse 2, a king's wrath is like the roar of a lion. He who angers him forfeits his life. It's to a man's honor to avoid strife, but every fool is quick to quarrel. I have 2 translations for verse 4. A sluggard, this is NIV, a sluggard does not plow in season, so at harvest time he looks but finds nothing. The Message says, a farmer too lazy to plant in the spring has nothing to harvest in the fall. Verse 5, the purposes of a man's heart are deep waters, but a man of understanding draws them out. Many a man claims to have unfailing love, but a faithful man who can find? The righteous man leads a blameless life. Blessed are his children after him. When a king, there's the word again, when a king sits on his throne to judge, he winnows out all evil with his eyes. Who can say, I have kept my heart pure, I am clean and without sin? Let me read that again. Who can say, I have kept my heart pure, I am clean and without sin? Who can say that? Nobody. That sounds awfully familiar. Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Verse 10, differing weights and differing measures, the Lord detests them both. That is when you cheat someone using bad weights and bad measures. Verse 11, even a child is known by his actions, whether his conduct is pure and right. Ears that hear and eyes that see, the Lord has made them both. Verse 13, do not love sleep or you will grow poor. Stay awake and you will have food to spare. Now, again, you notice a number of these proverbs have to do with being lazy, being honest, and being lazy. This next one is me when I buy a used car. Verse 14, it's no good, says the buyer. Then off he goes and boasts about his purchase. Nothing has changed under the sun in 3,000 years. Maybe, I don't know, a camel, when they bought a camel, I don't know what they bought, but it's no good, says the buyer. Then he goes and boasts about his purchase. Verse 15, gold there is and rubies in abundance, but lips that speak knowledge are a rare jewel. Now, only a spoiled, rich king would say, gold there is and rubies in abundance, because most of the readers would read that and go, What? I don't have any of that stuff. But Solomon had so much gold and so many rubies and so many jewels, it was just nothing to him. But what he did find to be a great value, of rarity, were lips that spoke knowledge. Verse 16. Take the garment of one who puts up security for a stranger, hold it in pledge if he does it for a wayward woman. That's NIV. This verse emphasizes the risk of a creditor that a creditor takes in granting a loan. I was a little confused about it. Let me read it again. Take the garment of one who puts up security for a stranger. Again, that's collateral. Hold it in pledge like a pawn shop. It takes collateral. Hold it in pledge if he does it for a wayward woman. That's what confused me, I guess. So the verse emphasizes the risk that a creditor takes in granting a loan. The debtor or cosigner may never repay the debt. The creditor, the one lending the money or property, is advised to hold something from the borrower to help guarantee the debt will be repaid. And so another commentary said, beware of men who take foolish risks. And so something along those lines. Verse 17. Food gained by fraud tastes sweet to a man. Who gets food gained by fraud, and by the way, tastes sweet to a man, but he ends up with a mouthful of gravel. Make plans by seeking advice. If you wage war, obtain guidance. A gossip betrays a confidence, so avoid a man who talks too much. If a man curses his father or mother, his lamp will be snuffed out in pitch darkness, which is interesting, saying his lamp will be snuffed out in pitch darkness. In other words, he's going to get what's coming to him. Bad things happen when you curse your mother or father. Verse 21, an inheritance quickly gained at the beginning will not be blessed at the end. Do not say, verse 22, do not say, I'll pay you back for this wrong. Wait for the Lord, and he will deliver you. Now this tells me that Solomon did learn something from his father David, because this sounds exactly like the doctrine of David. Do not say, I'll pay you back for this wrong. Wait for the Lord, and he will deliver you. David was a master at waiting for the Lord. Probably did it better than anybody else in the Bible. Verse 23, the Lord detests differing weights, and dishonest scales do not please him. A man's steps are directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand his own way? It's a trap for a man to dedicate something rashly and only later to consider his vows. A wise king winnows out the wicked. He drives the threshing wheel over them. And again, we don't have a lot of threshing wheels. Another translation said it this way: a wise king stamps out crime by severe punishment. I know I read another translation that says it just runs them over or something, but a severe punishment. Verse 27, the lamp of the Lord searches the spirit of a man. It searches out his inmost being. Verse 28, love and faithfulness keep a king safe. Through love, his throne is made secure. There is a wise statement coming from a king. He doesn't talk about strategy or money or military might. He says, love and faithfulness keep a king safe. That was radically advanced for the day, and even this day. Through love, his throne is made secure. Verse 29, the glory of young men is their strength. Gray hair, the splendor of the old. Gray hair is mentioned yet again, but here it tells us the glory of young men is in their physical strength, but old men have splendor too. It's in their gray hair. Verse 30, blows and wounds cleanse away evil. and beatings purge the inmost being. Yeah. All right, that's chapter 20. Any comments or questions? All right, we're making great progress. If you have a question, just mark it and we'll get to it, or ask me at the end of the chapter. Proverbs 21. Verse 1, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He directs it like a watercourse wherever he pleases. Now, that threw me for a moment. I didn't know exactly what watercourse was. The Living Bible says it this way, just as water is turned into irrigation ditches, so the Lord directs the king's thought. He turns them wherever he wants to. So I'm not a farmer guy. I guess I didn't know what he was talking about, but now it makes perfect sense. Just as water is turned into irrigation ditches. So let me reread it in the NIV. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. He directs it like a watercourse wherever he pleases. He directs it wherever he wants it to go. Verse 2, all a man's ways seem right to him, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Now that sounds awfully familiar too. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Where we heard that? In Matthew chapter 9, verse 10, it says, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? On hearing this, Jesus said, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. All the Pharisees cared about was sacrifice. Why? Was because sacrifice was something that they could do, that they could earn. I did my part, now God has to do his part. I did this, now God does this. They saw their relationship with God as a business arrangement. They did their half, now God has to do his half. Their part, God's part. They didn't see it as a relationship at all. And Jesus tried to teach them. And here it is, 1,000 years earlier, already trying to help them understand that. Verse 3, I'll read it again. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Verse 4, haughty eyes and a proud heart, the lamp of the wicked are sin. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. A fortune is made by a lying tongue is a fleeting vapor and a deadly snare. The violence of the wicked will drag them away, for they refuse to do what is right. The way of the guilty is devious, but the conduct of the innocent is upright. Again, I didn't write this. Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. The Living Bible put it this way, it is better to live in the corner of an attic than with a crabby woman in a lovely home. Now, to give you a little context, this was written by a guy who had 1,000 wives. So I'm not sure how big his attic was, but it wasn't big enough. The Message Bible wrote it this way, it's a paraphrase, better to live alone in a tumble-down shack than share a mansion with a nagging spouse. Now, they made it gender neutral, so you take it however you want to. Verse 10, the wicked man craves The wicked man craves evil, not eagles. The wicked man craves evil, his neighbor gets no mercy from him. When a mocker is punished, the simple gain wisdom. When a wise man is instructed, he gets knowledge. The righteous one takes note of the house of the wicked and brings the wicked to ruin. If a man shuts his ear to the cry of the poor, he too will cry out and not be answered. A gift given in secret soothes anger, and a bribe concealed in the cloak pacifies great wrath. I saw from another translation, it said, a quietly given gift soothes an irritable person, and a heartfelt present cools a hot temper. And so instead of bribe, it says a heartfelt present. Different interpretation there. Verse 15. When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers. I saw a thing this last week. It was a testimony from the American citizen that was released by the terrorists in Gaza. I don't know if you saw that interview. When President Trump became president, when he won the election, we actually had an American citizen that was among the hostages held in Gaza by Hamas. And he said that in the interview that Hamas, his captors, treated him horribly. They spat on him and bad food or very little food. They just treated him very bad. And they very much wanted Kamala Harris to win the presidency. And when election night came and Trump won, he said immediately the spitting stopped and the food improved and they were nicer to him because they knew Judgment Day was coming. And so, verse 15, when justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers. They were genuinely afraid of what was going to happen. Verse 16, a man who strays from the path of understanding comes to rest in the company of the dead. Let me read that again. A man who strays from the path of understanding comes to rest in the company of the dead. A man who strays from the path of understanding. That means when you do something stupid, you end up in the company of the dead. It costs you your life. I watched a documentary last month on Custer's Last Stand. The last time I studied Custer was probably in 7th grade social studies. That's been a while. We won't say what year. On June the 25th of 1876, Lieutenant Colonel George Custer led his men to defeat and their own death, as well as his, because he did not want to wait for reinforcements that were on the way. In fact, he had already agreed with these other battalions that they were going to split up and they were going to each go a particular way to find where these Indians were encamped, and then they were going to join forces and defeat them. Custer found them first, and he didn't want to wait for the other guys. He wanted all the glory. So he insisted immediately. He wanted the bragging rights. So when the reinforcements did arrive, they found piles of dead, scalped soldiers, including Custer, because he made a stupid decision and it cost him his life and the lives of others. Now, verse 16 again. A man who strays from the path of understanding comes to rest in the company of the dead. Verse 17. He who loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and oil will never be rich. Now, I got the wine part, I guess, but I didn't get the oil part. Who loves oil? Is that WD-40? It's olive oil. My translation just says oil. Turns out some translations say olive oil. Well, that doesn't help me that much. Who cares about olive oil? Well, they did a lot. And if you go to Europe today, olive oil is a big deal. We were in Greece a couple of months ago, and we ate lunch at a restaurant. I wish I had the picture for you. And there are these big picture windows in this hillside covered with thousands of olive trees, because olive oil is still a big deal. It is very much so in Israel to this very day. And there in the Garden of Gethsemane, there are olive trees that date back to the time of Christ. They're ancient olive trees. Here's how another translation translates this. This is a paraphrase as well, that we might say to our kids, oh, no, I'm wrong. I can't read my own notes. This is the LSV, the Lee Site version. This is what we might say to our kids. Let me read the verse again. He who loves pleasure will become poor. Whoever loves wine and oil will never be rich. So this is how I would say it to my kids. If you sit around playing video games and eat out 3 times a day, you're going to end up in the poorhouse. That's what the verse is saying in the 21st century. They don't care about olive oil, but you can't eat out all the time and still have any money in the bank. I hope they're watching. Verse 18. The wicked become a ransom for the righteous and the unfaithful for the upright. Let me read that again. The wicked become a ransom for the righteous and the unfaithful for the upright. This proverb suggests that the wicked will be punished for their actions while the righteous will be spared or rescued by their actions. Verse 19, better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and ill-tempered wife. Verse 20, no comment. Keeps himself from calamity. The proud and arrogant man, mocker is his name. He behaves with overweening pride. The sluggard's craving will be the death of him because his hands refuse to work. All day long, that can succeed against the Lord. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but victory rests with the Lord. Those last 2 verses are both connected and thematic, and good verses to know and learn. All right, that's Proverbs 21. Any comments or questions? Yes.
When you read 21:3, where it talks about that your righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice, in other words, it's different than yours. It reminds me of one of my favorite verses where it says, in Solomon says, righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne.
I like that. Very good.
I like that too,
Yeah.
especially when we sometimes don't understand the character.
Yeah.
What is the foundation of his throne?
All right, very good. Very good. All right, anyone else? Already know it. Train a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not turn from it. I cling to that one. Every parent does. It's not a promise that will happen every time, but it is a general principle that is sound. Verse 7, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Now, they may have meant that more literally, by the way. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Literally may become a servant, a slave to the lender. While they may have meant that more literally, there's truth even to it today. You can be enslaved to the bank. If all you do every day and every month is figuring out how am I going to make that payment? How am I going to make that payment? Give yourself an ulcer trying to figure out how to make that payment. Verse 8, he who sows wickedness reaps trouble, and the rod of his fury will be destroyed. A generous man will himself be blessed, for he shares his food with the poor. Verse 10, drive out the mocker, and out goes strife. Quarrels and insults are ended. He who loves a pure heart and whose speech is gracious will have the king for his friend. What does he mean by that? He's speaking as the king. As a king, he's learned, because everybody tells him what he wants to hear. Everybody's kissing up to the king. But he's learned to discern. Of course, he has wisdom, Solomon. The difference between people who are just giving him lip service and those who genuinely have a pure heart and are genuinely gracious. He's looking for friends like that. We all are. Verse 12, the eyes of the Lord keep watch over knowledge, but he frustrates the words of the unfaithful. The sluggard says, there's a lion outside, or I will be murdered in the streets. Verse 14, the mouth of an adulteress is a deep pit. He who is under the Lord's wrath will fall into it. Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline will drive it far from him. That's a good one to learn. He who oppresses the poor to increase his wealth, and he who gives gifts to the rich, both come to poverty. Sayings of the wise. Pay attention and listen to the sayings of the wise. Apply your heart to what I teach. For it is pleasing when you keep them in your heart and have all of them ready on your lips, so that your trust may be in the Lord. I teach you today, even you. Have I not written 30 sayings for you, sayings of counsel and knowledge, teaching you true and reliable words so that you can give sound answers to him who sent you? Do not exploit the poor because they are poor, and don't crush the needy in court. For the Lord will take up their case and will plunder those who plunder them. Don't make friends with a hot-tempered man. Don't associate with one so easily angered, or you may learn his ways and get yourself ensnared. Don't be a man who strikes hands in pledge or puts up security for debts. If you lack the means to pay, your very bed will be snatched from under you. I had to look this one up. Do not move an ancient boundary stone set up by your forefathers. Now, it turns out an ancient boundary stone is a boundary stone. And some things just don't change, even over the period of 3,000 or 4,000 years. If you own property today, and you have boundary markers, and you go out and move those boundary markers, and your neighbor goes out and sees that you've moved that boundary marker, it's not going to be good. Somebody's going to be mad. There's going to be accusations. So verse 28, don't move an ancient boundary stone set up by your forefathers. Verse 29, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will serve before kings. He will not serve before obscure men. All right, that was chapter 22. Any comments or questions about that chapter? All right, we did get through it efficiently. We'll start up there next time. And that concludes our Bible study for the week. If you would take